Shalom to all our students, and we are in Parashat Mishpatim. Whoever has some understanding of Kabbalah, we know that Parashat Mishpatim is the most elaborated parasha dealing with the whole system of what we call reincarnation. Okay, and we learn it from the Zohar itself. As it says, the first verse of the parasha, verse 1 in chapter 21, Exodus, VaEra Mishpatim asher tasim lifneim, and these are the laws you're going to put in front of them. Patach Rabbi Shimon v'amar, Rabbi Shimon opened and said, VaEra Mishpatim asher tasim lifneim, what is this verse about? These are the rules of reincarnation, which means every soul that comes to this world to receive its punishment. Okay, I'll explain what does mean punishment. But before that, let us explain it from the point of view of Rabbi Ashlag, the great commentator of the Zohar and the founder of the modern movement of studying Kabbalah in the 20th century. And he says as follows: we should know that when we are speaking about the generations of humanity on this planet, we know that, and we can see that the bodies are exchanging every generation. Bodies are dying and new bodies are being born. However, this is only with the bodies. However, the souls, which is the main essence of the body, because a body cannot exist without a soul. Okay? Hema einam, they are not absent with the laws of preservation of energy, which means we know that in physics, says Rabbi Ashlag, there's a law of preservation of energy, which means energy always doesn't come from nowhere and does not disappear into nowhere. So Rabbi Ashlag, he said, because we know this law from the laws of physics of we know that the essence of everybody, which is a spiritual energy, the soul, they don't come from nowhere and they don't just disappear into nothingness, because the same souls that were there in previous generations, they are being copied and pasted from one body to another, from one generation to another. So it's the same souls that lived during the generation of the flood, and they came back again with the generation of the Tower of Babel, and later on in the generation of the Exodus, and till our generation, until the end or the completion of the Tikun process. What does it mean, the Tikun process? Whoever is not aware of that, Tikun means in Hebrew correction, which means the souls are coming to a physical body into this world in order to achieve what is called Tikun. Now there's an individual Tikun of every soul that comes again and again and again till the soul achieves its own individual Tikun, perfection. And there is a general Tikun of society, of the whole of humanity. In that manner, we understand that in our world, there are never new souls, the same way we see about new bodies. But we know the bodies are new, but the souls are not new, the same souls that come again and again, and that's called reincarnation. The same amount of souls come and incarnate again and again, and being dressed up in new bodies every generation. Now, when we understand that, we can see that all the generations from the beginning of the history of humanity till the completion of the Tikkun process, it's like one generation that extended its life for thousands of years till it made it to develop till a point in which the soul is corrected, perfected the way it should be. We'll come to that. And it doesn't matter how many bodies every soul has been exchanging for thousands of times, because the real part that is important in the body is the essence of the body, which is called the soul. And the soul is not really being eliminated by being born, growing up, going through all kinds of hardships, and then death. It doesn't eliminate the soul. The soul continues to come again and again as it is. And there are many, many proofs to this. And there's a big, beautiful wisdom, says Rabbi Ashlag, which is called the Secret of Reincarnations. But in order to understand what does it mean, that the reincarnation process is applying itself, or it's manifested in all the details of our physical reality that can be perceived by the five senses, which means that we understand that everything in this universe has eternal life. What does it mean? An object does not have an eternal life, but the atoms of that object, they can be recycled. And one generation after another, you don't have just atoms being created out of nothing. That's almost impossible. But we know that in our reality, it's a reincarnation and recycling process of whatever we see around us, because every object, every plant, every creature is made of materials that existed years ago, and they just go through this reincarnation process. The same way we see in our eyes, we can understand that it should be in the spiritual world, which means the essence of what is the life force inside every creature. It's all incarnating generation after generation. Okay, and it doesn't lose anything along the generations with all of that process. And as we know by the scientists in physics, that there's a law of preservation of energy. Now, why is it like this? And why is it important for us to understand it? And that's the main issue of this parasha. Okay, because as we learned in a previous parasha, Parashat Mishpatim is it's the completion of the 6 weeks of the Exodus, which means the process of the Israelites coming into slavery into Egypt, that's chapter 1 in the book of Exodus, till Parashat Mishpatim, which is the completion of these 6 weeks. However, Parashat Mishpatim does not speak about the Exodus. It does not speak about the great story, one of the greatest stories, if not the greatest story in the history of humanity, that left an impression of history, and we spoke about it last week. So why Parashat Mishpatim is part of these 6 weeks? Because if we we read the parasha, as I said, from chapter 21, verse 1, we realize that this parasha is very, very dry. There's no story. There's no saga in this parasha. It's very dry laws, and it's called Parashat Mishpatim. If you live in Israel and you want to go and study law, the faculty of law is called in Hebrew Mishpatim, the same word exactly as the name of the parasha. And when you study Hebrew law, you study Parashat Mishpatim, which is the base of all Hebrew law, the way it's written in all thousands of books that describe the Hebrew laws. Okay, and we are talking about all aspects of human life, because when it says VaEra Mishpatim asher tasim lifnehem, it is starting with the laws of slaves, and we know that in ancient times you cannot have an economy, you cannot understand the economy of the ancient civilization without slaves. And after the laws of slaves, it continues chapter 21, verse 12. Makeh ish v'met mot yumat. If somebody beats up somebody to death, he should be executed. Okay, but if it was unintentional, which means an accident, then he has a place to run away for. I'm not going to go into these details, but we have the laws of, homicide. And what if somebody beats another person and the person is not dead, but he's sick enough that he cannot go on with a regular life? So what should be done? We are talking about the laws. Really, this is like criminal law. What if two people are fighting and they beat a pregnant woman and she had a miscarriage because of that? Well, and then comes one of the most famous verses in the Torah. We're talking about chapter 21, verse 24. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a hand for a hand, a leg for a leg. Okay? So that's also over here, which means if one person hurts somebody else's physical body, what should be the judgment? And what if it is an ox? If it's your animal that hurts somebody else, how much do you pay? How do you pay? How does it work? All of these details. And what if it's not your animal? What if you were digging a hole and somebody else fell into the hole? What if you created a pollution? You have a factory and stuff went into the river, people drank from this water and they were poisoned. How much you have to pay and so on. We are talking about the criminal law of every society. Every society must have this criminal law. How is that applying to the laws of reincarnation? And as we learn, you can't have this without that. So let us start with last week's reading in Parashat Yitro. And we read in Parashat Yitro, the lofty words that we spoke about it last week, that when God started to speak, I'm talking about Parashat Yitro in Zohar Sulam, verse 342. And the moment that God started to speak what we call the 10 Aseret HaDvarim, the 10 things, the 10 utterances, okay, which is known by mistake as the 10 Commandments, because in Hebrew it's things or utterances, never commandments. The moment that God has been revealed himself to the Israelites on Mount Sinai and started to speak, says the Zohar, the upper worlds and the physical worlds started to shake, and the souls of the nation of Israel, all of them, we're talking about around 3 million people, their souls left their bodies, and the whole thing of Mount Sinai revelation was mostly an out-of-body experience, which is, there's no precedence like this in the history of humanity, because all of religions are based on one person having a revelation. You can say he was nuts, he took some drugs, you can say he had a dream, you can say he's talking the truth. It's his word and he cannot prove against it because he had his own revelation, and the human brain is capable of a lot of stuff. Here we're talking about a whole nation having the same experience on Mount Sinai, although each one of them experienced it a little bit different, but there's no doubt all of them experienced the law. And that's what we are talking about. And Velamadnu, 343, and there's amazing description about how every word came from the upper levels, and every soul that was present on Mount Sinai experienced that word coming. And as it says, and the people can see the voices. So we understand it's not a physical 5 senses experience. Okay, and I explained it in last week's parasha, but here what's important is that every word, when it came down to this physical world, it has been engraved on the tablets. And then in every case of engraving, there's a whole thing of animation that if you can imagine, of course, you can't really imagine what really happened over there because it was an out-of-body experience, but there were millions of people experiencing together how every word, by it being engraved on the stones, you could see like sparks coming out of the stone, but these sparks, it's not physical or sparks of light. We're talking about 70 branches coming out, and from each branch come 49 branches, and so on and so forth, like, which means, and that's what I want to speak about, verse 344, every word was full with te'amim, reasons, explanations, bechol elu divrei gzerot, all kinds of decrees, sachar ve'onesh, reward and punishment, sodot ustarim, secrets, ke'otzar hazeh amaleh mikol, like a treasure, which means all of these words that have been seen and engraved, every soul of the Israelites could see that every word has so many manifestations in every day's life, okay? And those manifestations basically continue, because if you read Parashat Yitro, we don't see any verses saying that the revelation stopped after the 10 utterances have been revealed. It doesn't say so. It says that the words of God continue, and then part of it is Parashat Mishpatim. So Parashat Mishpatim is basically an expansion of all of those side branching of every word of the 10 utterances into how do you manifest it and make it really practical in everyday's life. And that's what Parashat Mishpatim is about. So now the question is like this. So what is the connection between the legal system of every country, every society, and reincarnation? And the answer is very simple. So the Zohar speaks about it as follows. Verse 2 in the Zohar of Parashat Mishpatim. כי תקנה ודברי ששנים יעבוד והשביעית יצא לחופשי חינם. The second verse in the Torah, verse 2 in chapter 21, when you buy a Hebrew slave, he will work 6 years, and on the 7th year, he will go to freedom. Okay? Now, without him paying anything for his freedom. Okay, that's the verse itself, the simplistic explanation. So, אמר להם רבי שמעון, רבי שמעון says, חברים, friends, כאן הזמן לגלות. עידן הכה לגלה כמה רזים תמירים בגלגולה. This is the time to reveal some hidden secrets of reincarnation. כי תקנה ודברי 6 שנים יעבוד. When it says, as you buy a Hebrew slave, he will work for 7 years. אם היא מסיתרא, כד נשמתה התחייבה בגלגולה. This is a law of slavery, which means the Bible spoke about slavery, but there was a different kind of slavery. The Bible itself is against, and we'll see it in Parashat Mishpatim, Gonev ishu mecharo mot yumat. Taking somebody else's freedom, stealing a person, or taking a free person and into captivity and making him a slave, that is that sentence. Why? Because it's like killing. It's like killing when you take somebody's life. And as we learned in Parashat Yitro, in the Mount Sinai revelation, the first of the 10 utterances on the 2 tablets says, I'm God your Lord, okay, that took you out of the house of slavery from Egypt. Where is the commandment over here? Where is the mitzvah over here? What's the law over here? And this is the most important law of all the laws of the Torah, that all the others are just expanding that first law. And what this law is about, it is saying, like as I explained, when you have a cell phone and you download a new app, when you activate that app, usually there's a legal agreement that pops up, and you have to read the agreement and to say, and you have to mark agree, do not agree. If you say do not agree, you can't use that app. If you say I agree and you sign, then you can upgrade your phone because the app will give you some options that you had no ability to use before that. Okay, here we are downloading into the tablets a program from the cloud, as it says in the Torah, okay? And this program is called the Torah. And what is this program? This is the app that can upgrade every human soul to eternal capacity, to eternity, as we'll read later on. Because it says later on that all of those words on the tablets meant freedom from the angel of death, okay? How? The first of them includes everything. You're being asked, do you agree that you've been taken from slavery and you are a free human being right now, which means you have to take responsibility, complete responsibility for whatever happens to you. If you agree, you can download the app and use it. If not, if you're a slave, it says very clearly, Eved Patur mitzvot. A slave is exempt of all the mitzvot, which means the whole laws of the Torah are not applicable. Now you understand why making somebody a slave is that sentence. Why? Because it's like you killed the person. The moment the person is a slave, his life is not valid because he has no power and free will, and he's not really functioning in the purpose that the human soul comes to this world. Why are we here coming into a physical body? So Rabbi Shimon is saying, the soul is coming into this physical life in another incarnation, or mechamat avonot, either because of sins, which means we created bad karma, negative energy by our negative thoughts and actions, okay? And now we are coming to another body because, as Rabbi Isaac Luria, the Arizal, is saying, you cannot have any correction unless the soul is inside a body. Why? When you have millions of souls on Mount Sinai, outside their body, you see all the matrix of the creation, the laws of cause and effect. You see exactly, if you hurt the person, how this hurt comes back at you. You realize how foolish it is to hurt a human being, an animal, or to inject any kind of negativity to the world outside, because whatever pollution, physical or mental, you created in the world around you, you have to clean that pollution because you have to pay the consequences and how much it hurts any human being. It could be a physical pollution. It could be physically bringing harm to another person by a physical action, any kind of physical action, and all of that stuff, or a metaphysical action, speaking evil about somebody, polluting somebody else's mind and heart. All of that, whatever you emit, you have to take responsibility about it, which means we are here in this world to clean whatever dirt on both planes, physical and spiritual, we have been created, and we have to take responsibility for that. If I'm not taking responsibility for that, I'm a slave. Because a slave is somebody that always complains, what could I have done? It's like, it was not my responsibility. I was forced to do it. Somebody forced me to do it. It's the consequences, it's the parents that I was born into, all of that stuff. The first law is you're not a slave take responsibility for every action you have ever generated in this lifetime, past lifetime, all the lifetimes before, till the beginning of the creation of your own soul. Or so that's about sins and negativities. And then it continues, but what about all the stuff, the positive stuff that the soul came to this world for? We came to this world to receive light because that was the only sole purpose of the creation. And the Creator created this universe so our souls can receive the pleasure that the endless pleasure the Creator has created. Without somebody to enjoy the pleasure, there's no sense for any of the creation. And therefore, we're not here just to remove bad karma and negativity. This is not the main goal. The main goal is to achieve happiness, fulfillment, and the pleasure that is the sole purpose of the creation. So if we are not achieving that pleasure, we're not achieving that celestial happiness and fulfillment, we'll have to come again and again and again till that purpose has been achieved. Of course, you cannot achieve spiritual, celestial pleasure while at the same time you have bad karma, which means so much negative energy you didn't cleanse yet and you didn't take responsibility for. Okay, so we are coming in this physical body, and the Zohar calls it litlabesh, like the body is a garment. You can't attach too much to garments because they wear off. But when the garment is over and you get rid of it or you recycle it, you have to remember the real individual inside these garments is not changing. It is the soul that is the main thing. The body is just a garment, okay? In every system, in many religions, of what reincarnation is about. So if we finish our lives and we did not accomplish the goal, which means removal of negativities and achieving of spiritual celestial fulfillment of pleasure, then we have to come again and again and again till we achieve that level. Okay? So we have to understand that everything we go through, Rabbi Ashlag explains, we have to understand that it's not like some people by mistake say there are in this world light and darkness, God and Satan, and they fight. And we have to side with God and to fight Satan. And if you think like this, that's not monotheism. This is a belief system of two authorities, two gods, two forces of God, the God of light and the God of darkness. No, in order for us to achieve God's fulfillment at light, we need to overcome obstacles. These obstacles are part of the creation. They're part of the Creator. What we call in Jewish tradition Satan or Satan, it is part of God's creation, so we can earn our pleasure and fulfillment by creating light out of imaginary darkness. The darkness is the ticket for which we achieve our enlightenment. So we have to see all the problems of the physical body, bad thoughts, negativity, other people's hurt and negativity, all of that is not Satan. It's not an authority of its own. It's not a force of its own. This is part of the system that trains us to become godly. And what does it mean to become godly? You cannot be given that power, that ability. You have, in order to become a superhuman, you have to rise up to it by overcoming all kinds of obstacles, but the obstacles are part of the system. They're not a foreign system. Our job is not to remove the darkness and to remove negativity. Our job is to transform the darkness and negativity we experience in everyday life into a victory and fulfillment. So whatever we go through in this world has to do only with one thing, the purpose. There's nothing that is not connected to the purpose. And what is the purpose? Enlightenment and godliness. Now, these 6 weeks of the ShOVaVYM, which are the ShOVaVYM is the initials of the names of the parashot of these 6 weeks, they are dealing with a concentrated aspect of how do you achieve that perception, that multidimensional perception of or awareness that I'm here and everything I'm going through, every thought, every emotion, every memory, every physical aspect of my life, it's business, career, family, everything is connected to one thing and one thing alone. How do I use whatever I'm experiencing as the gym of the spiritual mind and soul? What is that gym? How do I exercise to become the wise person I'm supposed to become? And that means that whatever I go through, pleasurable or not, is there to bring me that wisdom. And why wisdom? Remember that these 6 weeks always fall under the influence of planet Saturn, which is the main planet of wisdom. These are the 2 signs of Capricorn and Aquarius, but they are both ruled, according to the Kabbalistic astrology, they're both ruled by planet Saturn. And planet Saturn is the planet of training and teaching and wisdom. And how do you achieve wisdom? Nobody ever became wise by sitting on the balcony in front of the ocean drinking pina colada. Wisdom is being achieved by going through a lot of stuff, a lot of trials, a lot of errors, a lot of falling, a lot of getting up from the falling, never giving up. That's a learning from others, learning and experiencing by yourself. And it's always about the search after enlightenment. That's how you achieve wisdom. And therefore, there's a concentrated force that we can use during these 6 weeks. And especially this year, we have an extension of 2 more weeks because it is a leap year. So we have next month is Adar 1. We have 2 Adar. So this year, this Hebrew year has 13 months. So we have an extension from ShOVaVYM, it's ShOVaVYM Tat. Instead of 6 weeks, we get 8 weeks of intense hard work in which we can focus on our real true purpose. Because if a person thinks that his true purpose in life is to be healthy and fit, you're missing the point. There's nothing wrong about being healthy and fit. It's basic. Even the Torah says you're supposed to be healthy and fit, and you have to put some energy in it and to put some mind into it. It doesn't come for free, and you have to be aware of it. But that's not a purpose. It's a mean, not a goal. You should have a very fruitful career. Okay, the career of how you make a living and what do you do with your mind, with your brain, with your time, and so. But the career is not a purpose, it is a mean. It's not a goal. You should have social life, community life, family life, whatever. But this is not a purpose. This is a mean. When you understand that all of these are the laws in this parasha, we are learning that every rule that we're talking about, it doesn't matter how physical, how mundane it looks like. You know, somebody hits a person, you know, by mistake. You were, let's say you cow, if you go in the rules of the Torah, you had a cow, you have a cow or a horse, and they ran away. and they go to the marketplace and they break jars and they destroy somebody's store, how much do you have to pay? You have to pay all damage, part of the damage. You have a huge amount of words about it in the Mishnah, the Talmud, and other commentaries for thousands and thousands of years. All of this is being detailed. What's the connection to Mount Sinai revelation? What's the connection to enlightenment? And the answer is very simple. We are talking about the laws of the flow of energy and enlightenment in our everyday life, which means everything that happens to us is under that big story of how we reach godliness, how to reach enlightenment. And if you're not focusing on that when you do business, when you build up your career, when you build a family, when you create a relationship, a community, whatever physical actions you do, 24/7, all of them have a spiritual aspect to them. And as long as you're not aware of it, you simply are not capable of achieving the goal of this reincarnation, of this lifetime, which means everybody wants happiness. Everybody wants fulfillment. Everybody wants to feel success. But there is a difference between physical success. I know a lot of people that are really rich, famous, and everybody is jealous about it because they have everything a human being can aspire for, but they do not feel accomplished. They do not feel fulfilled. Why? Wrong focus, which means you're very successful in being a physicist or a physician, okay, or an electrician. It doesn't matter. If you don't have the spiritual aspect behind it, and as the Zohar is saying, if the Creator gave you a certain talent, that talent is there given to you in order to be a spiritual person, which means you need to experience spirituality and sharing and compassion from your electrician, from your physician, from your mayor, from any clerk that you encounter with in the government or in the city. Every person is positioned in a certain place in order to be, not because it is a kind of a prize because of good behavior. No, if you have more money, where is it? Let's read the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, Rabbi Chaim Ben Atar, his commentary about, I'll give you as an example, Exodus chapter 24, verse 24. אם כסף תלווה את עמי, את העני עמך, לא תהיה לו כנושה, לא תשימון עליו נשך. When you lend money to the poor, okay, to my people, do not be harsh with the person that owes you the money, and do not take interest. So, Rabbi Ishmael Omer, it says in the Mechilta of Rabbi Ishmael, which is an ancient text from something like 2,000 years ago, okay? That says one of the basic texts of the Mishnah, the Talmud, and so on, one of the basics of them. And it says as follows. A person will ask, ישאל השואל, בראותו קרבה כבוד האדם בזהב לרוב ואוצרותיו מלאים עונתק ללא צורך. Let's say somebody has so much money, he cannot spend all of this money by himself. Why would God give him so much money? Okay. What for? Why doesn't God give that person just enough for living? Maybe more for raining day. But why somebody should have so much money that there's no way ever in his lifetime he'll be able to use that money? Okay. And the answer is because there are some people that because of their karma and negative actions of this lifetime, another lifetime, they cannot receive their own sustenance. They cannot. But that money has to go somewhere. So it goes to somebody else. For what purpose? If you have more money that you can spend and you use, you have to realize that you're like a bank. The Creator gave you extra amount of money, so you can use that money in order to support those people that because of their reincarnation process, they have so much blockage, they cannot have that sustenance, that plenty coming directly to them. So what happens right now? So if you have extra amount of money, it is there to give you two aspects. One, you can raise your own tikkun by creating and generating compassion. I have more. That could be money, that could be power, that could be talent. I have more than what I need for myself, so I can, by sharing with other people, I am transforming my own sense of individuality, which means, oh, it's mine, I worked for it. I can go off board, outside of my comfort zone, and start taking care of other people. When I do that, I do two things. One, I cleanse myself. I cleanse my own body. I cleanse my own karma, my tikkun. And by this, I get closer to the Creator, because when a person adjusts himself to be in a place, in a position of really being there for others, we generate a transformation of our own physical darkness, our body consciousness, because we are all born with selfish bodies, and we're giving those extras. So by sharing with others as a vision, as a mission, as a purpose, how could that be? Every human being depends on other human beings. So if somebody comes to my home because I called him in order to fix my electricity, I have to look at it as a spiritual mission. I'm here to save the day for somebody else. If I'm coming with that purpose and with the aspect, I'm becoming a channel. And you know what it is? You can be dealing with a professional and it can feel like hell, because that person that not just it doesn't help you, you feel more damage because it takes your time, it takes your energy, gets you frustrated, makes you feel infuriated and inferior, and it makes you feel upset about life. While the same professional can come to your life and by helping you and fix a little thing in the house, but with happiness, with love, with compassion, and with godliness, you feel like this person made your day. So any interaction we have, those interactions are there for us for one purpose only, as I said, godliness. So we cannot separate between the upper world and the lower world, between the spiritual world and the physical world. Oh yes, you should be spiritual. No, we have to be spiritual in every aspect of every action that we do. So that's what the Rabbi Chaim Ben Attar is saying. That's why the Torah is speaking about lending to somebody else. And because the Rambam, the Maimonides, when he explains about charity, he gives so many levels of charity. What's the highest level of all levels of charity? When you lend somebody money in order to help them to build their own business. And as they say, usually, instead of giving a fish every day, teaching him how to fish and giving him the equipment for the fishing. This is the highest level of charity, which means a bank could be a system of charity higher than any non-profit organization, okay? But how many times you feel that your bankers are gets you through hell, and they didn't have to, okay? Which means every human being has an option of generating heaven around themselves, of generating hell This is our own free choice. This is our own free choice. You want to achieve the purpose of your life on this earth, you have to see every physical action, buying and selling, developing, whatever. It's all about one only thing, godliness. Can I bring God's light into my life, into everything I touch, into everything I do? This is the only thing. There's no other situation. So you can read Parashat Mishpatim totally as this is, oh, this is a base of law school. Okay? Or you can read Parashat Mishpatim as the base of how should a person apply godliness in every aspect of dealing with anything. Like, you know, a student asked me, so what's the connection with the laws of, let's say you walk on the street and you find money, okay? So there is a whole thing. What do you do with that money? What do you do with that money? And there's a whole chapter in the Talmud about Elu Metziot, which means you find something. What do you do with it? What do you mean, what do I do with it? I find money, I take it, correct? But we know people are more evolved spiritually. They have a feel that if I found somebody's money, I need to give it back to him. Why do I know it deep inside? Because during many, many lifetimes, my soul has learned that as long as there's an owner to this money or this jewel or whatever, the light that is encapsulated in this money or object, okay, and property is still belonging to that soul. If I take what doesn't belong to me, if I take it to my own possession, it's like stealing because it's not mine. It's attached to somebody else. So when the Talmud goes into how do I know if I can take that money or not? And the Talmud is giving us all kinds of ways of evaluating. For instance, if I found cash, like paper, cash paper, or like coins, and I found it in a place that is full of people, okay, in the marketplace, and it looks like somebody lost it a while ago. So the Talmud says, you know, based on the Torah, that we know that the moment the owner will find out that he lost that money, he will tell himself, this is in the marketplace. These are coins or money that has no marking on it, okay? And if somebody finds it, he will never be able to find me. So you give it up. The moment the owner gives it up, the money is mine, the one who found it. Why? Because the energy is being released in the money. However, if you find a purse with a lot of money inside the purse, but there's an ID card inside them, so we have to think, okay, that the person who lost it knows that maybe an honest person found that money. He can trace me because my ID is there. He can go online and look for my name online or Facebook or something like this. He can go to a police station and give it over there, and they will find my phone number. And since I know the owner of the money did not give it up, I know that all the light, the godly light inside that money, inside that whatever property is still attached to the owner because he didn't give up yet. Okay, so of course, now you can evaluate it to understand that everything that we do, it's all about one thing, the flow of light of our souls, and how do we go by the rules in order to go with the flow. If I don't go with that flow, I hurt myself. I'm not just hurting other people. And if I hurt myself, don't be surprised when you come to that place that everybody says that you are successful and happy, and you're not. You're not, because you don't behave by those laws. So all of these laws, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, it means all about taking responsibility. And the job of Parashat Mishpatim is about how do we balance the souls, because there's not one human being, as it says, En tzaddik she'aseh tov ba'aretz v'lo yachtav. It will never be that there will be a righteous person that will do only good without sinning. We're humans, and humans make mistakes. That we're very good at it. Okay? And if a human being does not make mistakes, it's an oxymoron. Human beings and mistakes, it's going together. So even if the greatest righteous person, he makes mistakes. Why? Because in this world, we are not here to simply celebrate our victories and perfection. We are here to transform imperfections, overcome darkness, making mistakes, amending mistakes and correcting them. And that's the only way we can generate spiritual, godly light. That's what this parasha is about. That's what Parashat Mishpatim is about. Now we can understand so many other aspects in this parasha, and why of all of this parasha about soulmates, about physical property, about richness, about poverty, about lending money. All of this is here because if we want to be successful in our lives, we have to bring that spiritual dimension into every aspect of our lives, the way we speak, the way we sleep, the way we make career, the way we establish a family. Everything has a spiritual dimension to it. And if we miss that spiritual dimension, you have to come back again till you get it right. We'll just read a little bit from the Zohar, verse 51 in the Zohar of Parashat Mishpatim. Tu azharuta livarnash it behane ikrai, v'chama eitin tavin ilahin, inon bechol minei deoraita. וכולו קשות באורח קשות והשתמודן לגבי חכימין, דעדי ואזלי באורח קשות, בזמנה דבעה קודשה בריחו למברי אלמה, סליק בירותה קמי וצייר כל נשמתין, דינו זמיני למאה בבני נשה לבטר, וכולו הצטיירו קמי בהאו ציורה ממש, בזמיני למהווי בבני נשה לבטר, וכמה כל חד וחד. How many warnings in this parasha to people? And how many good advices, spiritual advices, divine advices with all the words and the teachings of the Torah. All of them are true in the ways of truth. And whoever is wise and knows the ways of God, he will walk on that way of truth. When the Creator wanted to create the world and his will to share emanated, and he already formed, in that moment, all the souls that are supposed to be given in a human body later on. All of them have been formed in front of him the way they are going to be in a human body. And God saw each soul, each of the souls. Some of them were supposed to do evil. Why? That's the free will. If you don't have a free will to do evil, there's no plus in doing good. Because if you don't have any free choice and you just do good, it's like, what's the use in it? But then when the time of a soul is there to come to the world, then God calls that soul and he tells her, go to that place in that body. And the soul says, but Master of the universe, you know, I'm okay here living in this spiritual realm. I'm not going to another place. Why should I get dirty in that physical reality? So God answered, from the day you've been created for that purpose, to be in a physical limited body. Okay? So the soul has to come into the body in order to achieve its tikkun. That's a purpose. So this week is a special week with a special awareness that we need to pray for, contemplate about, meditate on, which is how do we upgrade our awareness of spirituality, our awareness of being able to inject the spiritual dimension in each aspect of our lives. So if somebody hurt me, somebody stole away from me, if I hurt somebody else, I have to see, if I don't see the spiritual dimension in that interaction, I'm missing the point, and I will never be able to achieve my purpose in this life. If I'm not using my time, which is the biggest treasure, my body, my brain, my mouth, my eyes, my ears, whatever I have, my talent, if I'm not using it 24/7 in order to bring myself and the world around me into enlightenment, I'm missing something. And if I'm missing it, that's the explanation for why we come to those times that we feel depressed, upset, lost, and I don't know what I'm doing over here, and why do I suffer so much? We suffer because we go against our purpose, or we suffer as we go through stuff that gives us the opportunity to elevate and to become more spiritual. Nothing happens just by coincidence. It's all part of the big process of Tikkun. That's the awareness of Parashat Yitro last week. This is the awareness of Parashat Mishpatim. This is the completion of the 6 weeks, and now we have 2 more weeks of realizing that there's nothing in our everyday life that is not supposed to be looked at, perceived, understood as not as a spiritual goal or spiritual aspect of reality. There's nothing in reality that does not have spiritual dimension, and that's what we are here for. When we reach that place and take responsibility for everything we go through, we are on the journey for Tikkun, and that's called the road of Torah. However, people move up and change and transform, and that's by the road of suffering. Why? If we go against the laws of the universe, it creates pain. And by trial or error, as I said, a lot of people that do not study Torah, never study Torah, but they know internally it's wrong. If you found somebody's purse, you have to make an effort to find that person. Why? Because that light in the money, in the purse, and the credit cards and so on, it's time. That person has to cancel the credit cards. He has to order new credit cards. Meanwhile, he's losing time. Time means energy, sparks. When we have the opportunity to bring back what somebody lost, that's a big mitzvah, because we are really bringing back sparks of his soul that he is almost disconnected from. So awareness like this can be achieved because many times we didn't go by that. We paid for that, who knows how many lifetimes. And now we have that knowing that we have to give it back. We don't know why, but we have to give it back. Honesty could be achieved by very deep pain, or by going by the ways of the Torah. So this is a special time of the year that it's much easier through prayer, meditation, and study to internalize that awareness, that da'at, so we see everything to that these laws, these ideas, and by this we make our lives on a faster, spiritual, powerful track and becoming better people in a much faster way with less misery and suffering. Thank you so much, and good luck.